Hello, Planet Internet. I'm Emperor Cole, and this is Emperor Cole's top 10 movies for you to check out, the Sci Fi edition, while on quarantine. So, of course, we're all indoors right now, and if you're fortunate enough to be indoors with your spouse, your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, you're fortunate to be able to quarantine and chill. So, while you're able to take some breaks, here are some sci fi movies, some suggestions for you to check out while you're getting your quarantine on. If you are in the house like myself, by yourself, you're probably getting your quarantine and Pornhub on. Okay, it's a joke, but not really. But anywho, let's get to my 10 suggestions of sci-fi movies for you to check out. So now these 10 movies are not in any particular order, so I'm not saying that number 10 is better than number 7 or number 1 or what have you. There's just 10 sci-fi movies for you to check out. Here's the list. At number 10, we have The Guyver. Jack Armstrong is a naive martial arts student who becomes implanted with alien technology after being attacked by local bullies. This technology turns him into a living weapon where now he's able to defend the Earth from alien threats and take on bullies who were bullying him before. The movie actually has Star Wars legend Mark Hamill in it in a supporting role. And originally in the movie's promotion, it was actually promoted as if Mark Hamill was going to be in the lead role. So a little bit of a deceptive advertising there, but that's actually not the case. The film in Europe was actually called The Mutronics for some reason because of a title beef. The movie has several scenes with people mutating and morphing into different types of creatures, and it's all done with practical effects and no CGI. At number 9, we have the movie Robot Jocks. This movie was set in a post-apocalyptic world that occurred after World War III, where traditional war has been banned by all countries. Instead, countries settle the disputes with large robots and hand-to-hand combat. Each robot has a pilot who is somewhat like a celebrity, and he fights for the particular country that he's from. Does this sound familiar? Of course it does. This movie was definitely a distinct inspiration for the film Pacific Rim and its sequels. And although this movie was made in the 90s, it has decent effects and stop motion animation that was pretty good for its time. And it is relatively entertaining while definitely having some political overtones. Coming in at number 8, we have the 2013 film These Final Hours. This is an Australian film when an asteroid lands in the ocean and takes out much of the northern hemisphere. Australia has about maybe 17 or 18 hours before the actual fire wave is going to hit their continent. So of course, everyone's doing what they can because basically these are their final hours alive. So we follow a main character, James, who decides that he's going to do what any young man his age would do, given the fact that it's going to be the end of the world. He goes to a massive orgy. While on his way to the orgy, he runs into a young girl who's lost her family and is scared and alone and needs help. So he does the noble thing and decides to help the girl and skip out on the orgy. I mean, given that it's the end of the world, I don't know if that was the right choice, but I digress. So of course now, while he's trying to help this young girl, he experiences the worst of humanity as everybody has basically gone into primitive survival mode. People are giving into their animalistic nature, and of course the worst of the worst type of things are happening as this film plays out. Kind of makes you think, what would people do if they knew it was their final hours on the planet? As a whole, everyone together, and this society just completely broke down. At number 7, we have 2010's Inception. Christopher Nolan really outdid himself with this film, as this is a movie that is about planting ideas in people's minds through their dreams. The visual effects in this film are out of this world, especially the tilting world and tilting hallway scenes that definitely made for classic movie moments. And of course, this film made Christopher Nolan a household name on top of the Batman series that he'd done, Batman Begins and of course The Dark Knight. The movie has practical effects on top of very good CGI, which made for some iconic scenes and made this movie a sci-fi classic. But you definitely want to check this movie out while you're getting your quarantine on. Inception. Coming in at number 6, we have Pitch Black. In this 2000 film, when dangerous criminal Richard Riddick, played by Vin Diesel, is being transported via spaceship to a new prison, the craft is struck by comet debris. This forces the craft to have to crash land at a nearby desert planet, and when they get to this desert planet, they find out they are not alone. There are nocturnal creatures that can only come out at night that are extremely fast and extremely deadly. The crew quickly begins to disappear one by one as it becomes a fight for survival. Vin Diesel plays this deadpan character who's very non-emotional with this very monotone voice, who's actually very, very similar to his character Dom in the Fast and the Furious. So perhaps they got the motivation from there. But at number 6, we have Pitch Black, great sci-fi film that you might want to check out while you're quarantining. At number 5, we have Blade Runner 2049. In this sequel to the cult classic, Ryan Gosling plays Officer K in Los Angeles. He finds out a secret that could definitely devastate society and unravel the world as everyone knows it. The information that he finds out puts him on a path where he decides that he must find Officer Rick Deckard, who was originally a Blade Runner 30 years ago. He's played by Harrison Ford, but unfortunately this man has been missing for 30 years. So what ensues is a very captivating mystery sci-fi film that is an instant classic. The movie's directed by Denis Villeneuve, and this movie right here is sci-fi cinema at its finest. You definitely want to check it out while you're quarantining. Coming in at number 4, we have Dark City. This movie has later become a cult classic, and unfortunately when it was originally released, it had the misfortune of coming out at the same time as Titanic, and it came out 1 year before The Matrix. The storyline is somewhat similar to The Matrix as they share some elements, so you can see where the movie kind of got buried between those two films. But this movie is a sci-fi masterpiece, make no mistake about it. Rufus Sewell wakes up in a bathtub next to a dead prostitute, and he has no memory of what happened. He also discovers that he's being pursued by an army of bald men who have telekinetic powers. But while he's trying to escape, he figures out that he actually has some of these abilities as well. So as he tries to figure out what happened and who he is, a whole lot unfolds in this particular film. The movie is directed by Alex Proyas, and this is his follow-up film that he did after The Crow. Dark City is one of the best sci-fi films that you've probably never seen, and you definitely want to check out while you're doing your quarantine. At number 3, we have the movie Aliens. This is the sequel to the original film that was Ridley Scott's horror alien classic. That movie was a much more claustrophobic horror film where the crew was being picked off one by an alien. This movie is James Cameron's follow-up, and this movie is much more of a sci-fi war film. And it finds Ellen Ripley, 57 years in the future, leading a small unit of Marines trying to reestablish contact with the terraforming colony LV-426. Of course, when they get there, they find out that everyone has been killed and is being used as hosts for the xenomorph aliens. And they have one hell of a time trying to get off of the planet. Aliens, one hell of a sci-fi film that you definitely want to check out while you're quarantining. Coming in at number 2, we have The Blob. When a date between a local football star and a cheerleader is interrupted by a homeless man screaming in pain who has some kind of a mass on his right arm that appears to be growing and getting larger, they try to take him to the hospital. Of course, when they get to the hospital, the man is admitted into a room, and before they know it, this type of organism, whatever this thing is, seems to have consumed the man's entire body, and it's getting larger. And even worse, the thing is moving autonomously on its own, as if it has a brain to think and do whatever it wants. This is a very fun film, it's fast-paced, and it's definitely a unique sci-fi film with horror elements that you will definitely remember for the rest of your days. Very good film, highly recommend you check it out. If you have seen The Blob, it's a movie that you definitely want other people who haven't seen it to see it, and if you haven't seen it, then you definitely want to check this movie out, The Blob. And coming in at number 1, we have 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So now this movie is a remake of the original that came out, I believe, in 1956. This is the better version. This movie might have even been remade once again in the early 2000s, but this is the one that I enjoy the most. Donald Sutherland plays the role of Matthew Bennell, and he gets confided in by a coworker who is a scientist or doctor, and she tells him that her boyfriend is not the same person that he was yesterday. Naively, he tells her to go see a psychiatrist. She goes to see the psychiatrist, and ironically, he tells her that it seems like a lot of his patients have been saying that same exact statement about someone close to them recently. So of course, after hearing this, Matthew starts to notice odd behavior amongst people close to him as well. And this is where the movie really takes off. From there, it becomes a lot of paranoia, where you're trying to figure out, are people still human, or have they been body snatched indeed? This movie has great practical effects, and the paranoia that this situation would create was definitely captured very well in the actual film. So this is a movie that you definitely want to check out while you're dealing with the quarantine. Excellent film, sci-fi to the fullest, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Okay, so that has been 10 sci-fi movies for you to check out while you're dealing with the quarantine right now. Of course, everyone, we're going through this quarantine situation together. Everybody, make sure you stay indoors. Make sure you wash your hands frequently. Try to stay as clean and safe as possible. This isn't the ideal situation by any stretch of the imagination, but of course, we're all just trying to get through it as best we can. There is no right or wrong way to quarantine as long as you're staying safe and staying indoors. So, those are 10 sci-fi movies for you to check out. Of course, make sure you let me know in the comments if there's any other sci-fi movie suggestions that you have that you think I might have missed, or just sci-fi films in general that you think other people should check out, while, of course, getting their quarantine and chill on, or if you're alone, just getting your quarantine on alone. But make sure you check those films out. Everybody, make sure you check out MindBender Entertainment on Facebook. Make sure you check us out on Twitter at MindBenderENT. Check us out on Instagram, MindBender_entertainment. And of course, check out the website, MindBenderENT.com. Until next time, and remember, the future is now.